Let's have a conversation around what's happening in the country now. And we are now joined by Jonathan Mueke. He was the first deputy governor of Nairobi City County. Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning.
Good
morning,
to have
Eric.
you in the studio.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here. My first time at Spice. Thanks for inviting me.
Karibu sana, but not your first time to listen to Spice, of course.
No, I listen to Spice all the time.
Very good.
Yeah.
So, life after your stint as deputy governor, what have you been doing? What have you been up to?
I went back into my private business. I've been an entrepreneur since my mid-20s. So, just went back into my business. Yeah, my private business. So, I'm in the real estate business. Yeah, and that's what I've been doing. Doing my part as a private citizen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything to do with, engaging the communities? You had traversed the county seeking votes in 2013, again in 2017. So you had engaged with very many people, even during your tenure as deputy governor. Surely you can't have just abandoned that, just said,
No.
kwendeni huko
And
mjanipatia
even
kura.
if you thought you had abandoned, people didn't abandon you.
Yes.
Yeah, no. Of course, I still speak with a lot of people. I still do a lot of work with the young people. Just ensuring that we secure the future for our young people. So I mentor a lot of young people. I still do a lot of community work. I still voice my voice a lot on governance issues. Yeah, on strengthening of institutions, on making sure there's service delivery. When I see things that are going well, I speak out and I say, hey, thank you. And when I see things going combo, I also speak out and give my mind. So I'm quite active, actually.
Before you became deputy governor, there's some people who knew you from the political front, and there are those who didn't know you. Even as you served as deputy governor, then there are people who interacted with you and they knew you, and then there are those who didn't. Just give us, how did Jonathan Mueke end up being on the ticket for deputy governor? Were you like handpicked? So we need to balance this thing out. Let's bring somebody who looks youthful, and let's bring somebody who then we can have a coalition. This is the CORD coalition, somebody who then will represent one of our coalition partners. So was that it, or did you actually have some stint in politics?
I first ran for an election in 2007 in Westlands. We were 24 of us. Fred Gumo, Betty Tet, myself, Kamlesh Patni, and many others. That was the first time I got into politics. I think, must have been 29 years old or something. So we ran in Westlands. I came number 3 after Fred Gumo and Betty Tet. Fred Gumo was in ODM. Betty Tet was in PNU, I think at the time. Was it? Yeah, it was PNU.
It was PNU.
Yeah, so we did that,
And you
and
won.
I lost the election. I kept in touch. Then when Dr. Kidero announced that he was going to run in Nairobi, he started looking for allies. He came from Mumias. He wasn't very familiar with Nairobi, and so he started looking for people who understood Nairobi and people who could help in his campaign. So they sought me out and they found me. And I said, yeah, sure, it sounds like a progressive candidate. Let's see what happens. So I joined his campaign from almost the start. Yeah, we helped craft the manifesto. We helped map out the city. We helped with the grassroots mobilization. I sat in the central management committee as the person in charge of the youth. So I was in charge of mobilizing the youth, finding out what do the youth want, how are we going to deliver it. So we just kept working. And when time came for him to pick a running mate, I think I was just the natural choice because of some of the things that we wanted to do in Nairobi. I'm a techie by profession, so I'm a technology expert, and one of the major things that Dr. Kidero wanted to do in Nairobi was to digitize all of Nairobi, make it a smart city, make sure that we're able to have government to citizen participation online and all of that. Being, the capital city, the vibrancy and everything. So I came in to help out to do some of that stuff. Now the choice of the CORD coalition was Philip Kesia. So it wasn't me. And when the time came, the principals of the CORD coalition came and said, no, we want Philip Kesia because he was being the town clerk. He
Yeah.
was almost like the incumbent, if you will. So he knew his way around City Hall, and in their wisdom, they thought that they wanted him. But Dr. Kidero was very clear what he needed to do in Nairobi and who he needed to help in Nairobi. So he declined.
You joined all of this because of what you wanted to do for the city and not necessarily because you were following an individual or party.
Isn't that why people get into politics?
Oh, really?
You get
As
politicians, you get into
following someone.
No, you get in because you want to solve problems. You want to build infrastructure. You want to serve the people.
That's why people get. That's why people
That's
get
why
into
I've
power.
always wanted to get into power. Yeah.
So are you saying, therefore, if I'm to understand you correctly, Mr. Mueke, that when people go into politics, the ideal push that they have is actually, as you say correctly, change lives, change situations,
Absolutely.
make decisions that actually make people's lives better.
Yes.
But that is not what happens
not
when
the
they
real-
get into power.
Why not? That's what happened when we got into power. We were able to do so many things that took Nairobi much further.
Tell us these things
Some of-
that
some
you
of these
did
things.
that actually
Yeah.
Remind
very
us.
much further.
Yeah.
What was the case?
So the Nairobi is a hub. It's the hub in East and Central Africa. It's a major hub in Africa. So one of the things that we really needed to do was to attract investors. So what we said is we're going to digitize the entire city to make it much easier for people to do business. So digitize the land rates system, the business permit system, the revenue collection system. That was double revenue from 7 billion to about 15 billion shillings. Then we knew that Nairobi had to be safe. And we came and found 20,000 streetlights. We tripled that to 60,000 streetlights, and we lit up all the informal settlements. That did two things. One, the number of reported cases of robbery in your police OBs dropped from 1,800 a month to 60. Only about 2 robberies were being reported a day, just because of lighting up. 2, it enhanced business in the informal settlements. That Mama Mboga who used to shut her business in Mathare and in Kibera and in Korogosho at 6 p.m. or 6:30 p.m. because it was dark, now could work until midnight and get an extra 200 shillings. Yeah. So those are some of the things then. And the health sector, Nairobi has a big population, and a lot of people used to come all the way to Kenyatta to come and get healthcare. What we did is we localized our health system. So we found only one health center that was 24 hours in Nairobi, which was Pumwani. By the time we left, we had 25 all over the city, which were 24 hours. And we put drugs, we hired 400 nurses, we hired over 50 doctors, and people started going to hospital where they are. We put maternities in Mutwini, in Kangemi, in Kwanjenga, in Dandora, in Karogosho, in Gara, so that people didn't have to go all the way to Pumwani just to give birth. We put mortuaries in Mama Lucy, in Bagathi Hospital. So we really decentralized the healthcare system so that people are able to go to work where they are. And the national government really lauded us for that, because what that did is it reduced pressure on Kenyatta National Hospital, so that now you could leave Kenyatta for real specialized cases. So those are some of the things we did. And when you do some things, what you need to, the benefits of them are the results, the indicators. So, for example, when we began to digitize Nairobi and make it easier for people to get construction permits and business permits, Nairobi became a construction site because we'd approve construction in just about 3 weeks. And the indicator for that is our World Bank doing business index dropped from 127 in 2013 when we got in. And by the time we were hitting 2016, we had come down to number 87. First time ever in the double digits. Another indicator was investors coming in. For the first time in the history of Nairobi, we became number 1 in 2015 in foreign direct investment. We were always number 4. After Johannesburg was number 1, Lagos was number 2, Cairo was number 3, Nairobi always came 4th. We became number 1 for the first time. Now we are number 7. Our revenue has dropped from 15 billion shillings to 8 billion shillings. So good leadership matters. And when you don't have good leadership, you see the results very quickly. Now it takes about 6 to 9 months to get a construction permit from 3 weeks.
Right.
Just try and build a house and try.
Why?
Right
Is it
now, go and
because
get
the
right
digital
now go and get a
platforms?
business license. It'll take you 6 months. We used to do it in 15 minutes. You go in, you type, you declare your business, you pay on M-Pesa, you print it yourself. Now you have to go to City Hall to line up to get a business license. It won't take you any less than 3 or 4 months to get it.
No. You can still renew your business permit online.
No, you can't.
I did that 2 weeks ago.
No, you can't. Unless NMS has fixed it. But when we were renewing ours, we couldn't.
Okay. Is this, when you say that, the things that you had put in place with this big project of digitizing the city, and now we have gone back to the analog, why would that be the case? Is it because the systems that you put in place were only dependent on this government being in place, in office? Or was it, why was it so easy to reverse those gains?
Because we had hired a company called Jumbo Pay, Web Tribe, to come and do all that digitization. And when the new governor came, he cancelled their contract. Then they brought in a new system that initially did not work. And it took quite a while for it to get started. And when it just started getting started, then all the functions got taken away from him by the president and given to NMS. Then NMS came and cancelled that new system and now put in their own system. I'm sure you've had guys complaining in Nairobi that you have 2 different systems to pay parking from. And if you pay from one, NMS clamps you. If you pay from the other one, the county clamps you. So there's just that confusion.
Why was it not possible to install a system that withstands the test of time and change of government? Because this sounds like, it's a contract with a private institution that has been signed by a government, and that's easy for someone else to come and cancel. Was there a sustainability plan with this?
Absolutely. How do governments create jobs?
Not
You
necessarily by
outsource all your non-core functions to private enterprises, and that's what happens all over the world. And if you want to employ people, you must do big infrastructure projects, and you must privatize service delivery so that you remain with only the core function of serving the people. So if you come in and start doing everything
you
yourself,
privatize service delivery, and then your core function is service delivery.
No. You see, you're the vision bearer. Yeah. So you're the one who's supposed to understand what is it that the people need. And again, like CT was saying earlier, when I said about a vision for a leader, is a lot of leaders come in and do what they want instead of coming in to do what the people need. And that's why our Constitution 2010, which for some strange reason we have refused completely to implement or to uphold, brought in public participation to make sure that anything that is done by government is meeting a need for the citizens, is solving a problem for the citizens. Yeah. So as a vision holder, you're supposed to come in and know what the citizens want and then put in measures in place to be able to sort those things out.
Mr. Mueke, there's something
You necessarily don't have to do everything yourself.
something that's puzzling me here.
Yeah.
I'm silent because I'm listening to the things you have said, and I know them to be true. Why didn't you people talk about these things when you're in power? Why didn't you let people know? Didn't you have a department of communication that was supposed to let the people of Nairobi County know that, look, folks, this is what we're doing for you. This is what we have done continuously, so that it isn't a guesswork. It isn't someone assuming or taking credit for something they haven't done. They know that this change has come about as a result of the work of this particular government. Why didn't you guys do it?
In hindsight, I think that was one of our biggest undoing, because the propagandists went out and said this administration has done absolutely nothing.
Yes.
And it stuck. I think for us, we focused on getting things done and not necessarily shouting about them. But in hindsight, maybe we should have. Maybe we should have done a lot of public relations around it. I mean, look at even Nairobi Water. We came in and fixed Nairobi Water. that had been broken for such a long time, and we increased water from 60% to 80%, and availed water in the informal settlements. I remember a young child in Huruma who was 6 years old said they'd never opened a tap and water came out. And we did that by simply putting in a very professional board headed by Raphael Nzomo, and very professional board members. And then we just changed the regional management, and we saw revenue jump up from 450 million shillings to 600 million shillings in a month, just by doing a reshuffle of non-revenue water. People were taking water and not paying for it. So I think we were focused on doing the work and not necessarily shouting about it. And I personally was very shocked when once I saw the president campaigning in Githurai, and he stood on top of his car and he says, Kidero has done absolutely nothing in Nairobi. And I looked at him and I said, wait a minute, Mr. President, we built the road that goes to your house. You requested us to build it, and we built you a special road that goes to your house. And you can come and say we've done nothing?
That wasn't for Nairobi, that was for him.
Mr. Mueke,
On Dennis Street Road, we built a road. That
not only built the road, you actually put pavements
And
with
l-
cabro,
yes.
and then you lit it
and
all
then we
up.
lit it all up.
Yes.
So we...
And you even put, I mean, the things that you did on that road are very many. But the point is, you see, I then have to question
Yes.
your political abilities. What sort of politicians are you if you cannot understand the need to actually shout even louder than everybody else about the things that you're doing? In all honesty, the national government seems to have that failing also. In this
Yeah.
sense,
Yeah.
you have people who are within government. Now, them, they're a little bit way left. They even shout about things they haven't done. Okay? Yes, they do. They say things that you're wondering, when was this done? But they say it. But they don't really get down to the brass tacks and talk about the things they have done. Because there are things they have done,
Yes.
but they don't talk about
Absolutely.
it. Now, everything that you've said so far, anybody listening would wonder, but this team should have gone back.
Yeah.
They started off very, very well. Given another term, perhaps they would have changed. Now, which brings me to the question I want to ask you. Why do you think the citizens of Nairobi did not vote you back in?
I think you need to ask the citizens of Nairobi that, because you don't mark your own report card.
You are a citizen.
you don't
And
mark
you,
your own
by your
report
own
card.
admission, have told us you still talk to people.
And
You're
they've
in
told
touch
you.
you're in touch with them. Now, or to speak honest, you may say, that's not one of these questions you really want to respond to honestly on radio. Okay, then don't respond honestly. Just respond a little bit honestly.
But I'm always honest, and I'm not honest 50% of the time. I'm honest 100% of the
a
time.
discount.
I
Yes.
think there was a serious mobilization that was done around the popularity of Governor Sonko. And a lot of people knew that Governor Sonko didn't have the ability or the capacity to run Nairobi. And I think they did, as Jubilee, something very brilliant. They went and picked a professional corporate titan called Polycarp Igathe, and they went around the city and lied to the people of Nairobi that Sonko will be the governor of Mashinani because he's very good at grassroots mobilization. And is very good at mobilizing the less fortunate in society. And Igathe would run the city. And I remember when we had a debate on NTV, and I remember telling my friend Polycarp Igathe, listen, hakuna governor wa mashinani na governor wa ofisi. Governor ni moja. The governor ni wa Nairobi. And that's exactly what happened once they got elected, and Polycarp tried to run the city how he knew, and he came in and he brought in his strategic plans and his vision for the city and how they were going to turn it around and how they'd implement their very colorful manifesto. And Sonko told him, bana, wacha kizungu mingi. Wacha mimi ndio nimechaguliwa na watu, sio wewe. And in a few months, people started asking Polycarp, hey man, the city is beginning to deteriorate. Why are you not doing your work? You promised us you're the one who's going to be doing the work. And because Polycarp is held very, very highly in corporate circles, I think he felt that his reputation was at a very big risk and he had to leave. Yeah, because now everybody was blaming him from not doing the work, but he was not being allowed to do the work. Because as a deputy, you only do what the governor wants you to do. And
So
if the
what
governor wants you to do nothing, you do nothing.
Bwana Mueke, so the Jubilee hierarchy,
Yes.
were they lying to the people or lying to themselves?
I think well, you don't lie to yourself,
Actually, you can.
but you can deceive yourself. And I think honestly, the Jubilee hierarchy thought that if they have national government and then they get the county government, they believed that they could manage or control Governor Sonko. And I think they got surprised that it was not possible to contain him.
That was it.
So I think for them it's also a lesson learned.
Having a conversation with Jonathan Mueke. Jonathan Mueke was the first deputy governor of Nairobi City County Government. He's here with us, giving us, first of all, we've just been, trying to understand what he's been up to, what he did while he was in office. And then we'll have a conversation about governance, because you say nowadays you respond and you actually react to issues that you feel happening around governance. There's a lot of politics. There's a lot of politics around the BBI. Now there's the issue of 2022 elections and what's happening, political alignments and realignments, and the future of the city county of Nairobi. Because you are the first deputy governor, you still have a voice here.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Well, Mueke, you talk about a lot of things that happened when you were in government, and then you talk about now, and you're still lending your voice. What do you think Kenyans need? We've been fed the last few months about what Kenya really needs, the sharing of power to make sure we don't go back to that place. But then I hear you say very clearly that development took place in a way in which it had not before. Does this country right now need a distribution of power, or does this country need development to get it to the place where it should be?
This country needs working institutions. This power that you're saying we want to go back to has existed before. We've had cabinet ministers who are members of parliament. We've had a prime minister and 2 deputy prime ministers. We still didn't get where we needed to go. What we need now is just working institutions. Is our judiciary really independent? Is our parliament really independent? Are the institutions that exist to serve us able to do their work without interference from above? Are we following the law? I mean, I say it all the time. Our constitution and the laws that our parliamentarians make are so good. If we only upheld 80% of our laws, 80%, this country would be a first world country. The reason we keep going back and retrogressing is because we just break the law with impunity. And it happens at every turn. What's worrying me most now is that it's become consistent. Yeah. Every time something comes up, we ourselves, the leaders, just break the law and we move on like nothing happened. The former Chief Justice the other day went and, as per the Constitution, asked for Parliament to be dissolved because Parliament did not do the work. That was ignored. Then a few days later, we found somebody being installed as a governor of Nairobi illegally, against the Constitution. And we're all quiet about it. We're okay. Now, last week, we are seeing even an ambassador being appointed when Parliament has said no. And it keeps going. Now we are campaigning. You're seeing one part of the political divide is able to campaign the way they want. And then when the other side goes to campaign, they are tear gassed or they are chased by police. It's sad. And that's what's taking us behind. And if we continue doing that, we're going to get into a lot of trouble.
So the BBI is not the solution?
BBI has never been the solution. BBI answers questions that we already have answers to. BBI is supposed to, what we are told, is supposed to ensure that we never fight again after the election. But we have the Waki report that was done many, many years ago that tells us exactly what we need to do, never to fight in an election. BBI is supposed to ensure that elections are free and fair. But we have the Kriegler report. We brought in a judge from South Africa to come, and he put in a Kriegler report, who even right now we have refused to do what he told us to do. Because one of the big things Kriegler said is, if you don't want to fight after an election, if you want to make sure the election is free and is fair, you must have a fully constituted electoral commission 2 years to the election. We are less than a year and a half to the election, and our electoral commission has 3 out of 9 commissioners.
And we want to get rid of those ones to bring new ones.
New ones.
You know, we say we want to do something for the young people. Agenda 4, Kofi Annan's report, was very clear, and it said that if you do not begin to deliberately bring your young people into leadership, if you don't nurture them, if you don't empower them, it's going to be a time bomb. It was in Agenda 4. That was carried over to Article 54 of our Constitution. There's a whole article that just says this is what you must do for the young people. We have refused to do that. Now we are saying in BBI we will. It makes no sense. It says we're going to take care of corruption, but you have the Ransley report, not the Ransley report. You have the Kroll report that tells us what we need to do. It says we're going to reform our police. We have the Ransley report that tells us what we're going to do. It says now we are going to make sure that all communities are taken care of and there's cohesion and all of that. But we have TJRC report that came out. We have NCIC, that is a constitutional commission that is operational and that has commissioners that's supposed to be independent, a constitutional commission. But we have not let it to be independent. So
something did happen, though. I'm in agreement with what you're saying, but something has happened that should give the national government a bit of breathing. It's called devolution. Because,
what about devolution?
well, devolution has semi-presidents called governors.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, do you really think that if governors did what they're supposed to do, what they're elected to do, some of these things that we are forever seeing as shortfalls,
Yes.
do you think they could have been mitigated?
Absolutely. You see what? That's why I keep talking about institutions. We've got very good laws in this country, and the laws dictate what a governor should do and what a governor should not do. And then you have put in another institution called the County Assembly that's supposed to check that. And then you have the County Governments Act and the Constitution that says if the governor does not do what they're supposed to do, get them out of office. But we don't do that. And if we did that properly, then everybody would be very clear and they'd be like, listen, we have consequences to our actions. But we don't. We let people get away with whatever they want to do, whether it's illegal, whether it's criminal. And depending on which side of the political divide they are, we look the other way. And that's why I keep going back to the law and to our institutions. If we followed our law and we allowed the institutions to work the way they want to work, would be fine. I mean, I've been talking to a lot of the MCAs, and I can tell you, and maybe a question I can ask you guys, because you're always on air and you hear from the citizens, if the MCAs were not bribed with 2 million shillings for their car grant, do you think they'd have passed the BBI? I don't think so.
Let me put it differently. It would have been foolhardy to expect the MCAs to pass any bill that is brought to them when they know this is the only opportunity they have to extract.
to get something
Only.
out of it.
And this opportunity isn't going to come again.
Yes.
And where am I going with
And
this?
that's not an institutional problem.
No.
It's people problem.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because they should have argued, they should have gone ahead and debated this, merits and demerits, and then say we are passing or we are not passing.
Eric, I'll tell you why it's an institution problem. The president, again, because we have very good laws, did not have the power to give the MCAs that car grant. That power is vested in the Salaries and Remuneration Commission.
Yes.
It is an independent institution
Yes.
that's supposed to sit down and look at merits and demerits and make a choice. I'll tell you, when we were in office, we tried as deputy governors, and I was in the leadership of the Deputy Governor Forum, to get housing allowance because the speakers got housing allowances, the governors got housing allowances, the deputies would. And for 5 years, the SRC said, nope, we don't have money, we won't give you, and whatever. And we thought we were being treated unfairly, and that is fine. So how does the SRC just come and be directed to give this car grant, and within a week they do it? I think that they were interfered with there.
It was influence.
So that institution is not working. If it worked, the MCAs would not have got.
But Mr. Mueke,
But it worked for 5 years. when
I
you're in
don't think
office.
the institution. It's not the institution that's not working. How do you think we as Kenyans understand the word independent when you have a president who has a role in appointing people who gets those positions? Tell me, how independent then are they?
Why it's independent is because the president appoints. The president does not appoint; he nominates. Then it has to go to another institution called Parliament that's supposed to vet. Okay, and once they are vetted, then only is when the president can appoint.
That theory is good.
That's why I'm telling you, our laws are perfect. I mean,
That theory is
our
good.
laws are perfect. Like, for example, I'll tell you right now, the law is very clear on what qualifications you need to be a cabinet minister. Very clear. How did Rashid Echesa become a cabinet minister?
In the clarity of law.
How? And he was vetted
By the
and
National
passed
Assembly.
unanimously by, and then appointed. You know, these are the things that we abuse that takes us behind.
So-
I mean, the president would have found another ally who meets the requirements and made him a minister.
You know,
and that's where we go wrong, guys.
Those who argue for the BBI, for example, will tell you, we'll look at all those things that, among other things, they'll argue on the context. So we have laws. We have laws that have, we have a constitution that is 10 years old. We have a constitution that's 10 years old, and we have seen institutions losing that independence here and there. The context here is the human beings in all these institutions and the political human beings in top of government. And if you address their concerns, then you're able then to allow these other things to work. If you address the political shenanigans, why do we have to keep fighting? Why do we have, with a constitution in place, and even a constitution has who takes an oath of office, when a president should be sworn in, what should happen if you have a presidential dispute? And yet we ended up with a double swearing in. We ended up with political turmoil after an election. Why? They'll tell you it's a human beings. So let's address the human side of things, and that's why now we come up with this BBI task force to go around the country and ask, what is the human problem? And they give us a human solution.
You know, Eric, on the BBI, I thought the handshake was good because it's always good when people get together and stop abusing each other. Yeah, it's progressive, right? Then they came up with a 9-point agenda for the BBI, which was an agenda between two people, the president and the former prime minister. And we said, okay, all these issues can be solved. You don't need to sit down and agree. We have systems that can solve all these issues of equity and tribalism and corruption and all of that. But I said, okay, fine. Then they put together a team to go around the country to collect views of Kenyans. And that I was extremely excited about. I said, listen, these guys are going to ask the Kenyans what really ails us so that we can stop ailing. And I thought that was very progressive. Then the report came out, which was very telling. Yeah. They were told to go and ask about 9 things to Kenyans. They came up with another 20 things called notable items. It was in the BBI report. And Kenyans brought their feedback that was completely different than what these two gentlemen were trying to feed. Kenyans came in.
Issues are not those 9.
They were not those 9.
Those 9 are your issues.
And they were put in
Here
as,
are ours.
and the steering committee was very clever. They put it in the BBI as notable
Things.
issues. And Kenyans came in and said, we don't follow the laws. We don't trust our politicians. We are corrupt. The
Our
youth are
moral
not
values.
being taken care of. I mean, there was 19 notable issues that Kenyans give feedback. Now, when I started worrying about the BBI and its intentions is when all that feedback was ignored and the powers that be went ahead with their agenda that Kenyans said, listen, these are not our problems. You've come to ask us, we've given you different problems. So those were shelved and they said, okay, yes, we've heard what your problems are, but we still want to do what we want. not what you guys say you want. And that's when I started wondering about BBI. Then when the final report came out, I went through the entire report and I realized that 90% of what is in the BBI can be done without the BBI, can be done without a referendum. Yeah, very progressive things in, giving HELB loans from 1 year to 4 years to repay. First of all, principally, I have a problem with that because why it was 1 year before is because the government thought that it takes a year for a university student to get a job after they graduate. Now you are telling them it takes you 4 years because you're telling them you'll pay back after 4 years.
So you have no opportunities.
So
basically,
yeah,
as a government.
instead of ensuring they get a job immediately, you're telling them now you'll tarmac for 4 years. But anyway, students got relief for 4 years. That doesn't need a referendum. It can be done now. Ward Development Fund. Nairobi County gave MCAs a Ward Development Fund in 2014. It's legislated, it was passed, it was agreed upon by SRC, and it exists. We didn't have a referendum, we didn't have a BBI. So we don't need to tell the MCAs we need to go to a referendum to get a Ward Development Fund. As a matter of fact, you guys, CDF is not even in the Constitution. It isn't, but it works every day and it's disbursed. Yeah, so you don't need those things. Another thing that is progressive inside the BBI is the county is getting 35% from 15%. Article 203 of our Constitution says you get a minimum of 15%. Today, if the president wanted and parliament wanted to give counties 70%, they can do that today. They don't have to wait to go for a referendum.
So
they don't have to wait for BBI.
They argue that for us to ring fence this and make sure that it's at least 35%, let's remove it from the whims of the executive and the National Assembly. Let's guarantee that our counties shall get 35% minimum.
Okay. How much have the counties been getting since devolution?
Okay, no, 15%.
No.
Going to 17.
The minimum the counties have gotten is 27%.
True.
It averages 32 to 33%. Sometimes they even get 37%. So we're going to go and pass this BBI and then nothing will change.
Because of the games that they play. It's
nothing will
30% if you look at which year you're using.
Yes.
So if we talk about the current budget, 365 billion shillings of a 3 trillion shilling budget is not 30%.
You're absolutely right. But you see, your point of the Constitution is you're saying it's being guaranteed in the Constitution. What the Constitution says today is that it is going to be at least 15% of the last audited accounts. So if the last audited accounts was for 3 years ago, that's what they use. So you're right. Now, they've not changed that in BBI. So you're saying now you'll get 35% of the last audited accounts.
But Mr. Mueke, do you think here we are backing up a tree? Because we are talking about a rational way of doing things. And the discussion centers on politicians making decisions. Politicians in Kenya making decisions. When have the two been in tandem?
But politicians exist to make decisions.
Yes, that's why I prefaced.
In Kenya.
Politicians exist to make decisions.
Kenya.
That's why we are elected.
Rational decisions and Kenyan
That's why
politicians.
we are.
Yes.
That's why we are
Look,
paid.
why am I saying this? You talk about minimum amounts, devolution, getting more fund. All those things sound really, really good.
Yes.
Judiciary, independence. The only way the judiciary can be independent is if they're guaranteed that the monies that are due to them actually gets to them.
Absolutely.
Forget this thing of it being controlled by the Ministry of Finance and Treasury. Forget that.
Absolutely.
Every other institution can only be independent if the purse strings actually belong to them. Purse strings don't.
Okay.
Now, so long as the purse strings don't, then it means that even if we call the institutions independent, they really are not independent. That really is the point that I was getting at all along. They are not independent. And so long as you have a president who appoints, they are not independent. And our understanding of appointment, you're beholden to the person who appoints you.
Presidents are head of governments. And they have a responsibility by law to run the government. And that's why they say it is my government or my administration.
Yes.
They come in elected by the people based on a manifesto, saying that this is what I'm going to do. Now, the people are supposed, again, it doesn't happen in Kenya, to go and look at where my interests lie.
Yeah.
This one has said my children will go to school for free.
This one has said maternity will be free.
This one has said maternity will be free. This other one, because I don't have children, have said they're going to subsidize farming.
Yes.
And now I'm a farmer, so I'll vote for the one who's where my interest lies. That's how politics is supposed to work. So when that president gets elected or that politician gets elected, their job is supposed to deliver what they said they would. And if they don't, there's a mechanism by law to remove them.
Yep.
Now, you can't give me a job and not give me the tools. So when you give me a job to do, I have to come in and appoint who I think is going to help me do this job. Who is going to be the best person to run our economy and go forward?
Yeah.
Who's going to be the best person to run our security agencies and go forward? And that's why these guys, then to avoid the tribalism and nepotism and rogueness, your choice is taken through a vetting system, which is the National Assembly. National Assembly are the representatives of the people. Representatives of the people. They're the ones who are supposed to make sure that everything the president is doing has the best interests of the people at heart. So the National Assembly is supposed to come in and vet these people and say, okay, has the president chosen the best person to run our security agencies? Do they have the experience to run the security agencies? What is their track record on competence, on credibility, on integrity?
Do you really
You
see
know?
these questions being answered? The
But-
way in which
but-
you're
but-
asking them and the people that we now have in positions
But
of power.
our
Let's
laws,
be on-
our
Yeah,
laws
sure.
demand it.
Okay,
Our
but
laws demand it.
practically-
So what
but
happens if you break
practically,
the
on
law?
the ground,
So
reality
But what
wise,
happens
what
when
do
you
we
break
see now?
the law?
Let's
When
start from
the
the
law is being
fundamentals.
broken by the
Jonathan.
custodian of the law.
Correct. That's where
How
our
then
problems are,
is this
guys.
supposed to happen?
The
When you break the law,
fundamentals-
you're supposed to be charged in a court of law.
The
Who is
fundamentals
charging
of
you?
this,
Who?
Jonathan, start from that thing that you said. The voter making a decision based on where their interest lies.
Yes.
This one came and promised free education. This other one came and promised free maternity. This other one came and, and promised subsidized or free fertilizer. That is not how we make the decision at the ballot. It starts from there. I don't make a decision because that Kidero and Mueke came and promised this and the other, and I'm looking at Jim Nambaru promised this and the other, and Philip Kisia promised this, and therefore I chose Kidero and Mueke. Absolutely not. It's other things.
So we need to ask ourselves
That member
why?
of parliament, the parliamentarian, this National Assembly, it's actually not representative of representing the people. It is representing the person who is in office as the head of the executive. Same thing to the members of the county assembly. That person is not necessarily representing because they are there, they were elected, they went and campaigned in this particular ward and they got elected. No, it is who are they aligned to. They were aligned to Kidero, aligned to Raila. That's it. So this person does not necessarily represent the people. This person represents Raila. This person represents Uhuru. So if Uhuru comes and brings somebody to parliament, the parliament is going to respond to the representative, who is Uhuru. You as a voter, my friend, you are lying. So if the fundamental starts from there, this whole thing of saying, you know, our laws will remain a dream.
You see, we have very good examples around the country of people who are elected because of their track record or because of their manifestos. And a lot of them show up as independent candidates. Others show up as political parties that you have never ever heard of. Yeah. And people defy gravity in some areas that you would not even imagine.
Yep.
For example, my friend David Ochieng overwhelmingly beat an ODM candidate in Raila's home county, where ODM is the truth.
Yes.
Right? He came in on a one-man party by himself against the entire system. James Orengo, who also comes from Siaya, campaigned heavily for the ODM candidate. Raila and the whole crew came in, and ODM crew went and campaigned thoroughly for the ODM candidate. But David Ochieng won not by a small margin, overwhelmingly.
Yep.
Why? Because of his track record when he was an MP from 2013 to 2017. So it does happen. What we are saying is we need these people to come together and let's change the game. Let's show Kenyans that, listen, if you make this action, because I agree, even in the corporate world, performance begins with recruitment. If you recruit the wrong person, your organization is not going to perform. It's the same thing with our politics. If you know very clearly that this person doesn't have the capacity to do the job, and then you elect them, then you get surprised that they can't do the job.
But
we're not
Mueke,
doing
you know,
anything. So I think
what you're saying sounds good, but people who are elected, people actually believe they're going to do the job. What happens?
They believe.
Yeah, they believe they're going to do the job. That's why they elect them in the first place.
Yeah.
There's this thing that happens when people get elected.
You see,
Especially to our there's something that happens. I don't know whether it happens at the gate of parliament or it happens when they go into that house. Something happens. And these people change right before our very eyes.
Do they change? This is the thing, and I'm asking, do they really change, or were they that way all along? And all that was, you've just been given a ticket to prolong who you really are. Because you can't tell me, what you're talking about now, the breakage of laws. You can't tell me that an individual now went into the house and decided then that they were not going to operate in a certain manner. It must have been the way you were all along. And that you made people think that you would be different. But when you went there, your true colors actually still did come out. I refuse to believe that you changed because you were given an opportunity in leadership.
Are you saying people can't be influenced to change?
No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that if your intent from the very beginning was really to have working institutions, if your intent from the onset was to make
serve.
sure that you were going to serve, regardless of, somehow that would have shown through in whatever capacity. And
Even
it's
even if the system is trying to push you
a
to a
little
certain
bit we
corner,
would have seen.
you'll still be.
Mueke is there, he's trying.
No.
You see, we would have seen something.
But do you really think all these Mheshimiwa don't think they're serving the people? They believe they're serving people. That's the
Some
other
of them know
problem.
very well that they're not serving the people, but they want to
They
continue.
honestly don't believe. No,
There's
in all
some
honesty.
people-
So they don't think they've changed. The way you're saying it, they go in,
Look.
then they change. They don't feel they.
The political leader that Jonathan Mueke is talking about is someone who has what you call servant leadership. Somebody who actually believes, I owe these people. I am their worker.
Yeah.
Okay. But then there's the Mheshimiwa. Okay. Who is the Lord Almighty. Now, when you become a Mheshimiwa, what you people want, you will help them as you see fit.
And do you really think that they think they're serving people? by
Yes,
that
as they
attitude?
see fit.
You see, and that's why we have the law, because the law equalizes all of us, and it tells us in all these positions, their job descriptions are defined by law. So there's no if you see fit or this is my idea of how I'm going to work for my people.
It's clear
No,
cut.
It is
Yeah.
clear cut that you have been hired as an MCA and this is your
these are your
job.
responsibilities.
Regardless of how
And
you
your
feel.
responsibility as a whatever. I'll give you a good example. One of the MCA's main roles is representation. We agree.
Yes, it is.
Representation of the people.
Yes, it is.
All right. Several polls have been done on the popularity of BBI. The last one that was done showed that in Nairobi, BBI is popular only 29%.
Yep.
71% of the people in Nairobi do not want BBI.
Yep.
Then you go into the Nairobi County Assembly.
100%.
And unanimously, not even one MCA says no.
100%
100%
of the representatives of the Nairobi people believe.
So who are they representing?
See, they're representing the people.
But the people have said they don't want
They
this
don't
thing.
want.
The people don't understand it as they do. So
The people have said
They're
we
going
don't
to
want
teach them.
this thing.
So in this case, we're saying the representation is relative.
I am no.
CT.
Don't trust the posters.
I am
Trust the leaders of the people.
Yes, exactly.
They're
And
the ones who know the ground.
when
the
people
ones who
when
know what
people
ground
are
wants.
clearly
The ground
no,
has said Z.
the ground sometimes is shaky, and so as leaders they have to lead the way, and they're leading the way.
They're showing it.
Look, it's you who mentioned. There's one county that voted no, and suddenly they had to go. They went to court and said, "No, folks,
We actually
There was
didn't know what
tear
they
gas.
were
decision.
saying. There was tear gas. We
tear
couldn't
gas,
see
what have
now.
we didn't really see this thing
There was
clearly.
tear gas. We couldn't see
We
clearly.
want this thing
literally.
nullified so that we can now see clearly."
MCS see things here and there. People are influenced by things. We had a conversation here with one of the MCAs who remember during the impeachment motion in the Nairobi County Assembly. A number of MCAs were not present in the chamber.
Yes.
A number of MCAs swear, I swear, I didn't log in. But they voted.
So
They voted.
You
So
tell me.
they represent the people.
You know, remember this song that was sung? I'm trying to remember who sang it. Kenya yetu ni nchi ya ajabu. Okay? Maajabu ni haya. Because, in all honesty, the things that happen in our electoral system, what I like about it, I say this tongue in cheek, is this. It shows us something exceptionally true about human nature. This isn't a political thing, it's just human nature. When people look around them and everyone seems to be heading in one direction, and that direction seems to benefit you, believe me, they'll abandon whatever else that they had held as principles and follow that particular path.
But you see, the truth always manifests itself.
There you
and
go.
a very good example is Mueke. When he went shouting and saying how the security laws were good and they were illegal, and they've passed them and it's done. Because then they were for Raila, to tame Raila. Now those same security laws is what's making them not even being able to campaign. Where you are standing somewhere to receive the deputy president, you are just picked up and taken to jail. Then you are released 2 days later without charge. The same guys who are saying, yes, let's do this.
They did it.
Now it's hurting them.
It's now law.
Yeah. And now it's being used against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's about the rule of law, observing the rule of law, but it also goes back into the principles of a human. If it doesn't matter how many good laws you have, if as a human being you have not been wired to do the right thing, then you're given that power to implement and to oversee and to be the one who's in charge of implementation of a law, you're basically going to start off by breaking that same law. And then telling people that you need to be the ones who are observing the law. In fact, let's change this law. You see, this law requires us to sleep at 10 p.m. And it's not good. 10 p.m. is still early. So we need to amend this law so that people can be sleeping at midnight. Between 10 and midnight, you can sleep. And there was a reason why the law was saying sleep at 10.
No, just be in your house. But you know, I brought in the element of human nature. We are taking this democratic space we have for granted, and we forget in the not too distant past, some of these things, like even this discussion, could not take place. Or if it took place,
That's true.
get ready to be arrested. Aki, you walk out. In fact, there's some people who would be waiting for you there to ask you to help them with certain investigations about your conduct and what have you.
Yeah.
It is never easy to do the right thing. It's just the truth. It never is.
Yeah.
And that's why you have mechanisms to punish you when you knowingly do the wrong thing. And what we have here is we don't have those consequences. That's the problem. Yeah, we don't have those consequences. For example, do you guys know that Sonko was not eligible to be on the ballot by law? He actually broke 5 different laws for him to appear on that ballot.
Eric, I know we're going to go into a break. Can you go into the break and then I'd like
for him to explain.
Yes, I would really like to understand these laws that were broken.